Okay, think about this. For 56 years, one NBA team was on a quest for a championship. And their story? Well, it's packed with heartbreak, some really weird identity crises, and these flashes of brilliance that just never, ever got them all the way. Today, we're going to break down that incredible journey to the top. And then, in 2023, it happened. After 56 long seasons, the Denver Nuggets finally did it. They reached the top of the mountain, lifting that Larry O'Brien trophy for the very first time.
So the big question is, how? How did they finally get here after all that time? Let's dive into this amazing story of patience, near misses, and finally, victory.
All right, so really get the Nuggets story, you gotta go way back. We're talking 1967, and they weren't even in the NBA yet. They were in a whole different league with a team that honestly couldn't even figure out what to call itself.
That's right, the Nuggets didn't start in the NBA. They were a charter franchise in the ABA, the NBA's flashy rival with the red, white, and blue ball. It was the league of big hair, crazy dunks, and, yeah, the three-point line.
And right from the jump, their early years were just a mess. I mean, they were founded as the Denver Larks, right? But before they even played one game, a new owner comes in and renames them the Rockets, after his trucking company. Can you believe that? That kind of chaos was just a taste of what was to come, and they had to change their name again to the Nuggets just so they could eventually join the NBA.
So they finally make it to the NBA in 1976, and almost immediately, the Nuggets started a pattern that would basically define them for decades. They were always exciting to watch, but they just could never seal the deal.
You see this perfectly in the 1980s with coach Doug Moe. His teams were famous for this run-and-gun style. I mean, defense, not really a priority, but scoring? Oh man, they put up absolutely wild numbers, dropping over 115 points a game like it was nothing.
And if you want one game that perfectly sums up that whole era, here it is. December 13th, 1983. It's a triple overtime game against the Detroit Pistons, still the highest scoring game in NBA history. The Nuggets score an unbelievable 184 points, and they lost. I'm not kidding. That's the 80s Nuggets for you. All gas, no brakes, and in the end, just not enough to win it all. Then we get to the 90s, and the whole identity flips. Now it's all about defense, and it's all built around this incredible center, Dikembe Mutombo. And in 94, they pull off one of the biggest upsets in sports history. They're the 8th seed, and they beat the number 1 seed, the Seattle Supersonics. I mean, that picture of Mutombo on the floor, holding the ball and just screaming with joy, it's absolutely iconic.
Okay, moving on to the 2000s. This brought a totally new look and a brand new superstar. And with it came a whole new wave of hope. But also, you guessed it, a very, very familiar kind of frustration. So in 2003, the team completely rebranded. They ditched the classic rainbow skyline jerseys for a fresh powder blue and gold look. It was meant to be a new start, and that new chapter was built around the number 3 draft pick, a scoring machine out of Syracuse named Carmelo Anthony.
And with Melo leading the way, yeah, the Nuggets were in the playoffs every single year. But man, they just kept hitting a brick wall. Look at this list. First round, first round, first round. It was brutal. That one trip to the conference finals in 2009 was the only time they broke through. It proved that even with a megastar, they weren't quite a championship team. And then came the big one. In 2011, Melo forces a trade to New York, and it completely changed everything. That whole experiment of building around one guy who needed the ball all the time, it just didn't work. The team was basically back to square one, and they had to figure out a totally new way to build a winning team. And that new way, that player who would change everything, he came from the most random place you can imagine. We're talking about a second-round draft pick from a tiny town in Serbia who was literally drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. Seriously, in the 2014 NBA draft, 40 other players were picked before the Nuggets decided to take a flyer on this little-known center named Nikola Jokić. He was a bit out of shape, nobody really knew who he was, and I promise you, no one, maybe not even the Nuggets front office, had any idea they had just drafted their entire future. And he would go on to become what is, I think you have to say, the biggest draft steal in the history of sports. A player who completely changed how the center position is played with these unbelievable passes. He transformed the entire franchise and became the best player on the planet. I mean, a guy picked 41st wins 3 MVP awards. It's insane.
So this slow, patient, and kind of weird way of building a team finally got them to the top. Let's look at how it all came together and how they finished that 56-year climb.
You know, in a league that's totally obsessed with big trades and creating these super teams, the Nuggets did something different. They did it the old-fashioned way. They patiently built their core through the draft, growing guys like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. right alongside Jokić. What that created was this incredible chemistry and continuity, a real team that was built, not bought.
And in 2023, that was it. The moment of truth. All those pieces came together perfectly. They finally shattered that pattern of almost, and they beat the Miami Heat to win their very first NBA championship. 56 years of waiting, gone. So when you look back, the story of the Denver Nuggets is just this incredible tale of persistence, right? From a league that doesn't even exist anymore, through decades of being pretty good but not great, to finally reaching the top with a superstar that literally no one saw coming. That half-century wait is over, and it just leaves us with one last question to think about. Was this a once-in-a-lifetime magical run, or are we watching the beginning of a dynasty?